The story of how the Seattle Supersonics became the Oklahoma City Thunder is among the most polarizing chapters in modern NBA history. For decades, the Supersonics were woven into the cultural fabric of Seattle, home to legends like Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp, winners of the 1979 championship, and beloved by a devoted fan base who called the raucous Key Arena home. Yet, in 2008, a combination of ownership disputes, arena politics, and economic pressures culminated in a relocation that left the city's fans heartbroken, propelled a new market into the professional basketball spotlight, and created a lingering sense of what might have been. This is the story of a franchise's uprooting, the frustration of a loyal community, and the subsequent rise of the Oklahoma City Thunder in a place that would embrace the sport with open arms. From the start, the Seattle Supersonics evoked visions of a team that thrived in a unique, rain-soaked corner of the United States. Founded in 1967, they burst onto the NBA scene at a time when professional basketball was still finding its identity in smaller regional markets. Over the years, the Supersonics cultivated a loyal fan following, thanks in part to the electric atmosphere of Key Arena, then known as the Seattle Center Coliseum, and to iconic rosters that reached their pinnacle with the 1979 title led by Jack Sikma and Dennis Johnson. Fast forward to the 1990s, and the Sonic Boom era showcased Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp, turning Seattle into a perennial contender and fueling rivalries with the Michael Jordan-led Bulls, Karl Malone's Utah Jazz, and beyond. The Sonics embodied a combination of free-flowing offense and intense crowd energy, solidifying Seattle as a fervent basketball town. Yet beneath the surface, challenges simmered. By the early 2000s, Key Arena faced criticism for being outdated and undersized compared to the sleek, revenue-friendly venues popping up around the NBA. Ownership groups, some local, others out of state, began pushing for major renovations or a new arena entirely. These efforts repeatedly stalled in Seattle's legislative chambers, with local officials and the public hesitant to finance a new building with taxpayer money. Rising player salaries and changing league economics underscored the feeling that, without a modern facility capable of attracting premium sponsors and corporate seats, the franchise would struggle to keep pace financially. Enter Clay Bennett and his ownership group. In 2006, Bennett, an Oklahoma-based businessman, purchased the Sonics from Howard Schultz, the Starbucks mogul. Schultz had grown frustrated with the lack of political traction for an arena upgrade and saw in Bennett a buyer promising to keep the team in Seattle if a favorable arena deal emerged. But from the outset, many in the city harbored suspicion. Bennett's ties to Oklahoma City were no secret, and that city had recently tasted the NBA experience by hosting displaced New Orleans Hornets games following Hurricane Katrina. The success of those temporary Hornets dates gave Oklahoma City a hunger for a permanent franchise, and the thought that Bennett's group could uproot Seattle's team lingered in every conversation. The tensions between Bennett's ownership group and Seattle's government escalated quickly. Bennett insisted that a new, publicly funded arena was essential for the Sonics' survival, pointing to deals in other markets as benchmarks. City and state officials balked at the steep price tag, especially after years of debate over stadium financing. When negotiations hit dead ends, Bennett's group filed legal paperwork signaling their intention to relocate. Supersonics fans, caught off guard by how swiftly matters progressed, staged protests, online petition, and even Save Our Sonics rallies near Key Arena to voice their outrage. One of the more dramatic twists came when Howard Schultz launched a lawsuit against Bennett, claiming breach of promise. Bennett, at the time of purchase, had publicly stated he would make good faith efforts to keep the team in Seattle. If that vow was made without genuine intent, Schultz alleged, it constituted a violation of the sales agreement. Yet legal wrangling was slow, and the momentum for relocation kept building behind the scenes. The NBA Board of Governors, seeing that the Seattle area provided no fully approved arena plan, voted to allow the team to move if the ownership group satisfied its contractual obligation. Commissioner David Stern, while publicly hoping for a resolution in Seattle, acknowledged that expansion or relocation ultimately boiled down to how a market could support modern revenue demand. During the 2007 to 2008 season, the final year the team would be known as the Seattle Supersonics, the squad played amid a gloomy atmosphere, as fans came to terms with possibly watching their beloved Sonics for the last time. Kevin Durant, drafted second overall in 2007, gave the fanbase a glimpse of hope for the future. But ironically, he would become the foundational star for the franchise in Oklahoma City, not in Seattle. As the team closed out its last games at Key Arena, emotional farewells played out. Longtime season ticket holders tearfully recounted decades of fandom, and players offered condolences, feeling powerless to halt the impending move. That summer of 2008, a settlement was reached with the city of Seattle. Bennett's ownership would pay $45 million to break the Key Arena lease, allowing the franchise to relocate. The arrangement left a small window for an additional $30 million if no new NBA team had arrived in Seattle by 2013. Ultimately, the city was left with an arena that lacked a long-term tenant and a fan base without their historical basketball franchise. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City offered an updated and fan-friendly venue, the Ford Center, later called Chesapeake Energy Arena, and a community ready to greet the relocated team with open arms. The newly named Oklahoma City Thunder debuted in the 2008-2009 season. Early results were modest. The franchise was rebuilding around Durant, Russell Westbrook, and later James Harden. But within a few short years, that core blossomed into a Western Conference powerhouse, culminating in the Thunder's trip to the 2012 NBA Finals. Meanwhile, in Seattle, many fans watched the Thunder's ascent with a bittersweet mix of admiration for players like Durant and regret that it wasn't happening in green and gold. The city's heartbreak fueled continued efforts to bring another NBA team back, which nearly succeeded in 2013 when a group tried to purchase and relocate the Sacramento Kings, but that attempt fell through as well. This saga triggered countless debates about loyalty, arena financing, and the league's responsibility to safeguard historic franchises. Advocates for the Seattle perspective pointed to the Supersonics' long tradition and a fan base that had, for decades, supported the team passionately. Critics accused the city's politicians of failing to act quickly enough and the league of being swayed by wealthy owners eager for fresh market. Meanwhile, many in Oklahoma City argued that they rescued a team that found no local political solution, highlighting how the arrival of an NBA franchise ignited an unprecedented sense of pride and unity in their region. In the broader context, the Sonics to Thunder transition marked a watershed for the NBA regarding relocations and expansion. It proved that emerging markets could host successful franchises if provided with a modern arena and a supportive fan culture. Yet it also reinforced that even well-loved teams with deep roots could vanish if they lacked an arena plan that aligned with the league's economics. Subsequent attempts by Seattle to return to the NBA spotlight have underscored just how hard it is to regain a lost franchise. Despite the city's robust sports base and lingering Sonics nostalgia, no official expansion or relocation plan has yet materialized. Today, the Oklahoma City Thunder enjoy a firm identity in the league, buoyed by early playoff runs and the goodwill they earned from a community starved for top-level sports. In Seattle, the Sonics' name, colors, and memories remain powerful symbols of a past that fans hope will one day return. The heartbreak of 2008 still resonate, inspiring documentaries, fan gatherings, and unyielding rumors about prospective expansion. For the NBA, this story stands as a reminder that business pragmatism can override sentiment, and that the emotional ties between a team and its city can be severed more swiftly than many imagine. Ultimately, the relocation from Seattle to Oklahoma City transcends a mere change of address. It's about the collision of local civic pride, financial imperatives, and owners' ambition. It's about how a star prospect like Kevin Durant can be inherited by a new market overnight, rewriting what might have been a storied chapter in another city's basketball annals. It's about heartbreak and hope, a tale of broken hearts in the Pacific Northwest and a rising sense of possibility on the Great Plains. And while the Thunder continue carving out their own legacy, the city of Seattle stands as a bittersweet example of how fragile an NBA franchise's roots can be, dreaming that the hardwood echoes of Sonics basketball will one day return.